Hey everyone, welcome back to the J Hood Comics channel. Uh, Good to see everybody. Good to be able to take a break and just do a little random video, just me, as far as I know. And invited Coach Vic, but I know he's big into March Madness and he's probably watching the game, so probably just gonna be me. Just figured I'd take a few minutes, just touch base and kind of see what I've been reading, what I've been collecting and picking up. Um, One of the things I've been kind of noticing about my own personal YouTube consumption habits is um, I find myself gravitating to just a few channels that I kind of go back to again and again. Yeah, I bet you guys do the same. And I'm just thinking, okay, what is it that I set out to do on this channel? What is it that I've always wanted to do, and kind of just reassessing every once in a while, am I doing that? And so this is my attempt to kind of get back to basics with what I intended to kind of show, do, and just share, I guess, in the greater comic book collecting hobby. Hey, I've got my first live guest here, Captain Comics. Thanks for joining me. Let me reposition my camera here just a little bit. There we go. Trying to get my eye line set. So yeah, I just figured, I'll just drop a rando video. Had a little time on this fine Sunday afternoon. Had to battle some technical issues to get this far along, which was kind of aggravating. So hopefully that doesn't set me off too much. But yeah, let's just dig right in. Let's see. So one of the comics that I've raved about over the last couple of years, because they've been on a kind of erratic publishing schedule, is Nice House on the Lake. That finally finished up. I know a lot of people that have been reading it from the beginning were a little bit disappointed with the ending, and that it didn't necessarily put like a finish line at the end. They kind of left it open for more, and I got to tell you, the quality is there. Give me more. Come back in 6 months or a year and work yourself up ahead of schedule. I think part of the problem they had with this was that they got behind schedule a couple times. So they had a couple little breaks in there, which many comics do these days, especially creator-owned ones. Hey, I'm fine with that. Take a break, guys. Come back in 6 months or a year. Give me the next chapter of what's going on in the Nice House on the Lake storyline. Tricky Trapster, good to see you, man. Yeah, I got a stack. I've always got like a reading stack and a put away stack. I think that's kind of the plight of us comic book readers, collectors, consumers. So just generally, these are books I'm picking up in my pull box. And so one of the reasons I want to kind of do this video every once in a while, just touch base and kind of see just like a self check of where am I as far as the amount of stuff that I'm reading. Am I reading everything I'm pulling? And then just kind of sharing what I think about it. Is it good, bad, indifferent? So yeah, Nice House on the Lake. I think quality, story, art, both. Give me more of that. Next book, just randomly been picking up this current Jason Aaron run on the Punisher. A lot of people at the beginning were a little bit like, what are they going to do here? How are they going to explain away the old Punisher, the skull logo that they're, Marvel is kind of making an effort to get away from, because so many groups out there have kind of taken that up as their symbol. So it's been a strong book so far. Again, art and story. Jason Aaron's written several runs, at least one or two runs on Punisher so far, and this is it'll be interesting to see how this one wraps up. I like the fact that I know it was originally scheduled to be 12 issues. I'm not sure if it still is. And I'm finding that as long as the book is good quality, I'm there for beginning to end. If it's a book where I'm like, how's this gonna go? So I'll take it, dip a toe in, buy the first issue, buy the first few issues, and then figure out, okay, am I gonna keep going or am I gonna jump off? So this is one of the books that came out, I believe it's just this week, Superman Lost. I've been, lifelong comic book collector, so Superman fan, Batman fan, all your standards. But like a lot of us kind of older guys were like, yeah, those new comics these days, they don't live up to what I want them to be. So I want to buy a good Superman book. I want to buy a good Batman book. Not so much Batman. I'm burnt out on Batman. I tell you, Batman fan forever. Give me a break on Batman for a while. I haven't read Superman in a while. So the premise of this story is Superman goes off on a Justice League adventure, gets called away on business, and then suddenly, like the next moment, a few hours later, shows up back at the apartment with Lois. Lois is there, and Superman says, "I've been gone for 20 years." I'm like, all right, well, that's a kind of a different conceit for a story. I think one of the things we kind of, again, I think us older readers that have been reading books for a while, we're almost to the point of, have they told the best Superman story? Again, is it even worth writing Superman anymore? Is there another good story waiting to be told? I think we all have the hope that there is. So I'm giving this one a try. So this is written by Christopher Priest. I loved his work on Black Panther back in the day. I know he had a run on Deadpool for a while. And then Carlos Pagulian, I believe that's how you spell the artist name. He's a solid artist. Not one of the kind of the big well-known names, but I think he's technically sound as far as the art goes. Interstellar Superman. Oh, we'll wait and see. We'll see how it goes. So those books so far are the ones I've read. The rest of the stack is my kind of to-read pile, and it's pretty substantial. So we got the last issue of Berserker. I know this is another book that was like really super hyped. They had tons of covers and all that crap. But the story and art has been solid from beginning to end, in my opinion. I mean, everybody's got their opinion on Keanu Reeves. Is he a great actor? Is he? He played, was it Bill or Ted? One of those guys. So he's always had a bad rap for taking on those roles early in his career. He's come back strong in John Wick and some of the other movies he's done lately. So yeah, he's kind of launching this as a, hey, here's a property. Maybe we can make it into something bigger than just a comic book someday. Whether they do or don't, I don't care. It's a good, solid comic book. This is the last issue. Again, limited series. Started off strong, kept me through the whole thing, and I'm anxious to read this last double-sized issue. House of Slaughter, or no, the Book of Slaughter. I didn't even know this was out. I didn't know this was a thing. I mean, I'm aware that there's a book called House of Slaughter, and it spins out of something that's killing children. I'll talk about that book a little bit more once we get to that. But and I'm not sure exactly what this is, but it gives a little bit of like, here's kind of the textbook information you need to know on how this whole kind of society works, what the different jobs are, the different types of masks, and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't so hot on the House of Slaughter book, so I gave that a whole. If I find it in dollar bins, I'll pick it up when I see it. But I figured that this was a good, like maybe a one-stop shop reference for that universe. So I figured I'd give that a look. One of the more solid mainstream reads for the last few years since Tom Taylor has taken over the books, Nightwing. They just did issue 100. This is the cover A for issue 101. Is it Nestor Redondo? Something like that. He didn't do the art in this, but he did the cover. Just doing an outstanding job on the art. This particular issue looks like it's got a fill in as far as art, but looks solid. So looking forward to that. Thor. So here's a kind of a alarm bell to me. I've got 2 issues of Thor, and I think both of these were in my pull box. So I go to the comic shop about once a month to 6 weeks. So 2 issues of that were in there, but I didn't have any other issues waiting to go add to this stack. So that's a good sign. but I know Donny Cates racked up his run on that. I think is it Todd Klein? Last Nick Klein is the artist, and he did both these covers, and I think he's an outstanding artist. And I honestly, I have a lot of childhood ties to a character like Nightwing, not so much to Thor, but anytime they do a good solid Thor run, a good Spider-Man run, yeah, I'll give it a look. So I've been reading that since they rebooted that title. Picked up the early issues of this, and I was like, I wish I liked it better. So this is Batman Superman World's Finest, written by Mark Waid with art by Dan Mora. But I was intrigued by this issue that focuses on a date between Supergirl and Robin. I've heard good things about it. I know guys like JP have been reading it. Seems like a really solid title. I like what they're doing in it. I just wish it was more memorable. It would stick to my guts, and I would really want to come back for more. So this is another miniseries that's just wrapped up. So I got issue 7 and 8, and I had issue 7 from the last time I went to the comic shop. So I just figured I'd wait till I get issue 8 and then finish up reading the storyline. As strong as this series from Sean Murphy started out, the whole Batman White Knight stuff was really solid. It was a really, I think, a nice take on Batman that was both fresh, but then touched on some of the older, gimmicks, things, the familiarity we had with the characters, kind of put them on their edge. So it's a kind of Elseworlds title, but I'm not as much of a Batman Beyond fan, and this kind of merges, our classic Batman mythos with Batman Beyond, and I'm just not as much into it. Hey, Biggie Shack, he just did a video himself a bit ago. How you doing, man? I finally got over my technical problems. Had to actually get in touch with StreamYard to get back in my own channel. So here's another book that I wish I liked better. But again, these were 2 issues waiting for me at my LCS in my pull box. Junkyard Joe. I think that Gary Frank is one of the best artists doing mainstream comics these days. He's teamed up with Jeff Johns here in his Image Comics universe, the Mad Ghost universe, where Jeff Johns has got a series of characters that he's going to kind of work himself through, all in the same universe. But I come back to this, and I'll finish this up. This is issues 4 and 5 of a 6-issue miniseries. Not the most exciting miniseries, but love the art. So I'm going to keep getting it. And it's something I'm disappointed with the story. Sometimes you get through, you read a book that you've paid. These are $3.99 cover price, so I paid $4 each. And you read it, and you're like, okay, so what happened? Not a lot happened in the whole 22 pages. But yeah, it's just worth it to come back for that Gary Frank art again and again. So here's another somewhat military-oriented book, and I haven't heard anybody talking about this, and it's got Gary Frank covers, strangely enough. But this is Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. And you guys know who's writing this thing? Bruce Campbell of, the Bruce Campbell that's from The Evil Dead. Remember the Evil Dead movies, old school Evil Dead movies? Of course, he's done tons of stuff since then. And then another one of my favorite artists that I don't see often enough, Eduardo Rizzo. That, of course, his most famous work is 100 Bullets. But this is about a Sergeant Rock adventure set in World War II, where Hitler has generated some kind of technology to make a zombie army, essentially. So it's kind of, if you're into horror, if you're into uh, war stories, if you just love cool black and white art, it's got the one zinger lines that a guy like Bruce Campbell would write into these books. So if you're into any of those things, I would definitely go pick these up. So here's another example of it's a series, a mini series where it was a follow up of a longer series that I did enjoy at the beginning, and it kind of trickled off towards the end. But this is the follow up. Hello, Tony's Workbench. How are you? So this is the follow up mini series to Strange Academy. So this is Strange Academy Finals, which is written by Scotty Young, art by Humberto Ramos. So it's a solid product. I love this cover with Doyle Dormammu versus his daddy Dormammu. It's a real cool image there. So it's the fun part about this book, and this is why I keep getting it, is it just reminds me of old school X-Men, and I wish they would do X-Men more like this book, find a way. Going into this, I didn't know any of the characters all that well. I mean, they pretty much just introduced all of them as new, so that was pretty cool. But just the way the kids in the school got along was very X-Men like. Marvel, you listen to me. Put Scotty Young in charge of your X-Men line. That's what I want to see next. So that kind of wraps up everything that you would find in Jamie Hood's pull box. I am signed up for a few newer series coming out. I'm going to try some of the new DC reboots. Like I think I signed up for The Flash with Mike Deodato art. Green Lantern looks kind of interesting, so I'll give each of them the first issue to try. So now I've got a few books. So every once in a while, you just get in the mood. You want to buy some new comics, and you see everybody talking about their favorite graphic novels or trade paperbacks or collections of series they've read. And I've been hungry to kind of get back into what everybody else is reading. Part of the reason I was able to do this today is because I just took a weekend off of all the freelance stuff I've got going on and just said, look, I'm going to do everything else that I've been putting off because I've been grinding doing freelance paintings and stuff like that. So I needed a refresher weekend. So that's what we're doing here. So went to the comic shop and did a rare thing. I looked through their graphic novel selection. A few weeks back, I saw this mentioned on Bleeding Cool that I can't remember who it was, but they were like, I think that the article was, this is like the best-selling graphic novel or something like that, or was at the time for whatever month it came out, and had to go into an immediate second printing because it sold out so quickly. And then I looked at like reviews for it, and everything had glowing reviews from top to bottom. And I'm willing to get away from the more mainstream superhero-y stuff and find a comic that just takes advantage of the mechanics, the benefits of what the comic book art form can do, other than just showing me stories about people in capes. So this is supposed to be like it's definitely more of a slice of life kind of thing, but I've read half of it, and I'm like, I get what she's doing and kind of going through in her life. She's got some problems that I can't quite relate to, and that's not to diminish her problems versus my problems or vice versa. It's not terribly interesting, but I tried it, so I'll finish reading it, and maybe if someone comes to mind that I think, hey, they might like this, I'll just pass it along or put it in my I've got 8 short boxes of comics I need to sell. They'll just go in there. So I saw a glowing review, not a review, but an opinion of this Bitterroot from our pal Unruly Simeon. He'd bought the big hardcover edition, collected edition. I've heard nothing but good things, and his comment pretty much was, "This is the best comic you've never read if you haven't read it." So I give it a try. I know Coach Vic has expressed some interest in it, so figured if I read it and don't like it, pass it along to him. No big deal. It's a Image first edition. You know, their first trades are always usually a little bit lower cost, so figured give it a shot. So I got those two as like the hey, let's try something new. And then I wanted something that I was going to be like, if I'm gonna buy three trade paperbacks or collections or graphic novels, I gotta have one that I know I'm gonna love. That's gonna be a winner. So I bought the first hardcover from Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips in their Reckless collection of hardbound graphic novels. So this is all new material. This is not collected from a miniseries. They have decided to switch from, hey, we're going to do five issue miniseries of whatever our latest idea is. We had Criminal or Fatale or Kill or Be Killed. Some of those I still need to catch up on, and some of them, if they get too far off the beaten path from their crime stories, I'm not as big a fan. But this is definitely like a mini series worth of content. It's a half-inch wide book, and I've heard nothing but good things from people that are fans of theirs. So I figured, hey, I got to dive into this. I believe there are 4 different volumes of this Reckless storyline. It's not a storyline, but Reckless is the character. That is the last name of the character that crosses over from story to story. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading that. And so I go out and I buy these things, right? And then I come home and I'm like, okay, what did I have here? I've got stuff sitting out that I intend to read. Like I've got the Black Hammer omnibus I got for Christmas last year. Did I get last year? I got it the year before. I've had it for 2 years now, sitting on my shelf over there. I could read that. So there are things that have been kind of going back into my collection and reading through. I bought this run from our friend Highlight Comics. This is probably during COVID, back a year, 2 years ago. He was doing an auction just to sell off some of the stuff he didn't want to keep around anymore. And actually, I had to buy this one. This first issue was not in his set, but I bought like a run of from like issue 2 to 18 or something like that of Redneck by Donny Cates. And it's basically redneck vampires, and the art's quirky, cool. Story so far is solid. I've read through the first 3 issues or so, and if I'd have been smart, I'd have just dug this out and not even had to spend money on anything else this weekend and just read through this. But the good thing about having old comics around, you can read them whenever you want. Another book a series I'm reading through, I'm halfway through, Ultra Mega. I've talked about this a few times, but it's basically kind of Ultraman, an extreme version of Ultraman, and kind of passing that kind of power set down from father to son. But of course, it's super over the top, super gory, just over the top action. So then I'm getting into a few books. This next 2 I picked up off eBay, and I'm not sure that I've showed them on my channel before. I might have shown them on Instagram posts, but one of them is back here behind my shoulder. I think I did show this before. So this is Son of the Demon. Yikes. Can't lose the lightsaber drawing from my daughter. Son of the Demon. This was a hardcover book that I used to see at our local Comic-Con that we'd have every summer around here, a dealer would bring, he'd have 5 or 6 of these in a box, and I never took a stab at it. But this is supposedly the storyline, the story where Damian is conceived between Batman and Talia. They have a little bit of a nice time in here. I mean, nothing over the top you wouldn't expect in a 80s era comic book, but it's got great art by Jerry Bingham, who's very much from the Neal Adams school. I think probably worked in their studio. But yeah, good book to have, especially these days with Damian gaining so much of a following. Good question. It might be a Geeky Dad. Biggie says, I was just trying to explain to people why I don't need more books. I'm in a situation where I've got about 8, like I said, 8 short boxes I need to get rid of. Some of it's good stuff, some of it's just stuff I can't give away. I set up at a show a while back, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, I said I was going to talk about Something's Killing Children, and I didn't have any single issues of that in my stack. I'll talk about that in a second. So I did the show and tried to sell off a bunch of this stuff. It was just a local show with a low table rate, and I really didn't do that well at it. The show was, like I said, small. We just didn't have enough people, not enough interest. You win some, you lose some. But ultimately, I think one of the things I might start doing is just take a box out of my PC and just do a stream of going through the box. And is it keep or call? Do I keep this book or do I get rid of it? I've still got around 10,000 comics. And after doing that show where I was trying to sell stuff, I'm like, man, I can't strap my family with all this crap. Like, what? They're not going to know what to do with any of this. So I've got to distill it down into the best stuff and kind of get rid of the rest, unless it's something I just want to enjoy for the rest of my life, which there's some of that. So before I keep going into this poll, I did want to talk about Something's Killing Children. And one of the interesting things I learned at my comic shop when I visited yesterday. So Something is Killing the Children. The next issue is going to be issue 30. So usually they go in 5-issue story arcs, and actually every 15 is like one of their big omnibuses. So issue 30 is like a good jumping off point, but it's not that I don't want to keep going with it. I don't want to keep buying it in floppies because there's not enough story in each issue. I'll read it in like 10 minutes. And again, it's like, I paid $4 for this. It took 10 minutes to read and not that much is happening. So I asked the store owner, can I switch from buying Something is Killing the Children in floppies and can I sign up to subscribe to the trades? And they said yes. So apparently that's the thing people do. You can subscribe to trades if it's a book that they do ongoing trade collection editions. So I switched over to that. One of the series I was looking for that they didn't have trades of was Daniel Warren Johnson's Superman run, the War Worlds storyline. I wanted to pick up the trades of that, and they didn't have them in the store. They carry a lot of back issues, but they didn't have the complete run. So that's something I'd like to pick up sometime soon. Anyway, back to some of the books I picked up. So a couple of eBay pickups, and then I went to another show a couple weeks ago where I picked up a real short stack of cool stuff, and then I'll talk about the last book in a minute. But I'm not sure if I showed this on my channel yet. This is Our Army at War number 182. And you might think, well, what's so important about this? So this has a story in it by Neal Adams, and it's his first work at DC. So his first big boy comic book assignment. You look at it, and I'm not going to open it here. I might do a short video of it, just flipping through it once. But it looks like his work, but yet again, there's something a little bit off. He's still somewhat of an amateur at that point, but he's one of the best looking amateurs you might ever see. I saw the cover for the first issue of this and thought it was really striking, and then I went and looked to see what the price of it was, and it was like real expensive. But this is issue 2 of Race for the Moon, and it was not expensive. It was relatively inexpensive, like, I don't know, 10 or 20 bucks, something like that on eBay. But this is all Jack Kirby inside, all sci-fi, way before his work at Marvel. So this would have been, it's a 10 center, but approved by Comics Code Authority. So it probably came out in the late 50s or early 60s. No, not early 60s, probably late 50s. This interesting book to find. Jack Kirby's career has such a wide expanse, it's hard to keep track of everything he's ever done. But it's cool to find little gems like this where it's, his sci-fi stuff, kind of just him doing his thing, and just fun to see. So this was a book that's been escaping me for a while. This is my show haul from the Hall of Heroes convention, which the Hall of Heroes is a superhero and comic book museum here in our area. Actually designed their logo for them, and they put on an annual convention. They bring in movie stars and comic book talent, not a lot of both, but they try and bring in some real kind of heavy hitters, some quality guys. So this year the big guests were Lou Ferrigno, who he's the Hulk. What can you say? And then Jim Shooter was the big comic book name. I didn't bother to get autographs or anything like that. I did take my daughters. This is the first time they've been to a comic book show. Just wanted to expose them to the experience. I just found one dealer that had some stuff I liked and picked it up. So this was a issue of the Avengers that's been escaping me. This is a John Byrne drawn issue, number 166, one of his earlier works at Marvel. So I finally got a hold of one of those for a reasonable price. I picked up this just total cover buy, and it was like, I don't know, $3. So like, hey, yes, please, $3, give me that. Turns out it's got some flaws. It's got like half the back cover is missing or something crazy like that. But I just bought it for the cool cover, and I don't care what's inside. So got that. This one I look for it every once in a while on eBay. That just never pulled the trigger. Teen Titans number 14 in a decent condition. It's got some spine ticks, but it's flat. The edges are good. Corners are fairly decent. So I just wanted it to read. So got that. Very cool Nick Cardy artwork in that one. Got a copy of World's Finest, and this is number 142. So this is a book I kind of regret pulling the trigger on. Not that I don't want it, and it's not that I paid a lot for it, but I wish I'd have waited and got something in better condition. You need something?
Can I have tablet time?
No tablets today. Go play.
I'm tired of Minecraft.
Oh, turn it off.
Bailey won't let me.
Okay, watch something else on the TV over there. Go. I'm doing a video. No one cares about your Minecraft problems. Life with kids. So the reason I picked this up is because it's got one of my favorite Silver Age stories in it. This is the second appearance of the composite Superman and his battle with Batman and Superman. The composite Superman has all the powers of the Legion of Superheroes, which makes all the sense in the world. Not really, but it's just so cool. Of course, he's green because composite Supermen are all green. I don't know. It's just a fun, quirky book. Like I said, I wish I had held out and waited for one in better condition that didn't have this kind of tanning on it. But for the price I paid, I just couldn't pass it up. This guy was selling these Silver Age books at like $20 each and then half off. So I never was like, it's a book I gotta have. This is the first Silver Age appearance of Two-Face, and again, not in perfect condition at all. I'm not sure. I mean, I saw that down there, but I'm not sure what has caused it. But again, out of pocket, $10. Couldn't leave it there. This one wasn't as much. I think this was a $10, so I picked it up for $5. Just a cool adventure comics. Neil Adams cover again with Supergirl. I don't know what it is about Superboy and Supergirl. I like their Silver Age adventures. And maybe it's the fact that Superman wasn't the only dude with superpowers. That there are, he's not the only Kryptonian. I know. And then lastly at the show, I picked up this fairly clean copy of X-Men 108. Nice spine. Corners a little bit dinged. It's got some stuff that an eraser could clean up. I had a copy that had a lot of wrinkling from a water damage where somebody had set like a wet glass on it. And, it had that whole kind of ringed warping on the back. So still got that. I'll put that up for sale sometime, but pick that one up as the upgrade. Now, speaking of upgrades, I did show this one on Instagram. So that show I went to that I set up at a few weeks back had virtually no sales. I made $100, $125 was my profit on that show. But had some interest in some of my books, but no one was pulling the trigger. But two guys were there, and they happen to run booths, or they do booths at some of the area flea markets, and so they're like, yeah, we're interested, but we can't. I can't remember what it was. Like they wanted to pay with Zelle or something like that, and I didn't have Zelle. I had PayPal, and they're like, well, we just can't get our funds together. Can you wait till after the first of the month, and then we can get our funds together, and we want to buy these 2 annuals from you? So they were the Fantastic Four Annual 2 and Annual 6. So number 2 was the origin of Dr. Doom, and Annual 6 is the origin of the first appearance of Franklin Richards. And both were in pretty bad shape. They were like 2 5s to 3 5, maybe a 4. I don't know what's passable in a 4.0 grade. But they both had terrible spine splits. And when I got that copy of the Fantastic Four Annual 6, I was like, man, I really like this book. I just can't live with these spine splits long term. So I'd put them up for sale at that show. Those guys were interested. Another dealer kept coming back and looking at them, but never talked to me about them. So after a couple weeks after the show, they got in touch with me on Instagram and said, hey, are those books still available? And I said, yes. So I sold those. And then within just a couple days, so I was already scouting eBay, what copy of Fantastic Four Annual 6 can I pick up? Which ones look like they don't have any spine splits in them that I can afford? And then I was watching, I think it was a Sands auction, and somebody was like doing a whole wall of all these books they were putting up, and one of them that they threw up there was a Fantastic Four Annual 6. So I picked that bad boy up. Again, it's not a perfect condition. It's got some, like you can see over here, it's got a crease in it. It's got a color break in it, but it's not nearly as bad as the copy I had. The spine is in really nice shape. It's got this color rub or whatever's going on there, sure, but the spine is totally intact from top to bottom. There's virtually no splitting it all. So I was really happy to get my hands on that copy. So now I'm going to have to save up a little bit more to regain that Fantastic Four Annual 2. I made money on the deal. I came out ahead. I gave the guys a discount just to make the deal happen. Still came out ahead, but I still left maybe 50 or $100 on the table because of the Annual 2. That was the more valuable book. But sometimes you buy with your head, sometimes you buy with your heart. My heart's in this book. I'll try and get another copy of that Annual 2 at some point. Biggie said he likes that one. That was, I think that might have been the Superman, the Action Comics. Yeah, the Adventure Comics, the weird key cover. I think that was about the X-Men. Yeah, I offered him that Fantastic Four Annual 6 a while back. And then he was there watching that night when I did landed the one I got there. So thanks for that that support, Biggie. There we go. Shout out to Biggie Shack, one of the stout stand-up guys in our community. Always good to hop in on my streams, host streams all the time. Go follow him. If you're watching my channel, you know Biggie Shack. But hey, looks like that's all I got. So we'll wrap this one up. We'll get a show started or scheduled sometime with Coach Vic and Al. We'll get something going with them again. I'm just crazy busy with freelance stuff. I finished up a big TIE Fighter painting last week. This week I got to paint a couple Dodge Chargers, Dodge Challengers. I'm committed to do a wedding piece for somebody. My wife wants a piece for my daughter's room. So I'm going to be busy, but I always miss being able to share what I'm buying, try and interact with other live streams that I see going on when I get to sit down and work and kind of listen in. And I really appreciate people that do that. Biggie, JP, all the auction guys. Usually I'm working on all the auctions during the week. Not doing much buying. Everything either it goes before I get to it, or they're not showing what I'm into. But it's always just good to hang out and touch base with the community. But with that, I'll sign off. Remember, keep your priorities straight. Faith, family, comic books, and we'll see you next time, guys.
Whenever there's a crime, who's always there to fight it? Whenever there's a wrong, who's always there to right it? When someone breaks the law, who do people holler for? It's the Batman!